welcome back to the Morning, Noon, and Night Show. I'm Tracy Mitchell, and I'm pleased to be here with Talia Karner, author of China Doll, her second book of fiction. Welcome, Talia.
Thank you very much. Thank you for
Now, Talia, I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the show, at the head of the show, but Jenny and I were saying, she was telling me that you were coming on, and we decided right then and there that I would interview you because I have a daughter who is adopted from China. So I take personal interest in this subject matter. Can you tell us a little bit about the book?
Well, actually, China Doll, the book, celebrates the bond between an adoptive parent and a child, the strength of it and the full commitment, because that's the premise of this novel. It's an American pop singer on a concert tour in China when a baby is thrust into her arms. And she decides she wants to keep her. Obviously, it's a girl. And she finds herself on a collision course with the world's two superpowers because she starts talking against infanticide in China. And her label company has vested interest in the business market, and that causes some problems. Turns out everybody has an agenda, and she is committed to save this baby from the orphanage.
Although it's fiction, it's an interesting subject because obviously, as some of our viewers may not know, the one-child policy still exists in China. And you mentioned infanticide. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I would like to first say that population control is really needed in China. They have 1.3 billion people, 22% of the world's population on 7% of the arable land. Had they not instituted in 1979 the one-child policy, they would have doubled by now, would have been half of the world's population on 7% of the arable land. So even we as Americans have an interest in having them control their population growth.
It's just a matter of how they go about doing it.
But that's the problem. The Chinese do have a history of infanticide going back thousands of years in every generation. And it's specific for baby girls, so it's really a gendercide. And today, every year, still 1 million girls are missing in China because of the preference for boys. And again, that has a very strong social, traditional issue, but also an economic issue, because parents do not have, older people do not have any social benefits, and they rely on the son to take care of them in old age, while a girl marries off
and goes with their family.
Right, so she has
family.
no economic value whatsoever.
Now let me ask you, how were you drawn? Were you drawn personally to this subject matter?
Yeah, I have children who were born naturally, so I don't have this adoption issue personally. But I always felt I was adopted by my father, and I always felt that I had a better father than a lot of my friends. In 1995, I was at the International Women's Conference in Beijing, where this issue of infanticide just totally blew up. And it was a very major issue that came up. And the more I learned about it, the more horrified I was by the conditions in the orphanages, where the death rate was 80%. In the past several years, Western charities had begun to act, were permitted by the Chinese to have access into China and to sponsor several orphanages. But that's still a drop in the bucket. Right. The neglect, the fatal neglect in most of Chinese orphanages, and they call it orphanages even though those children are not orphans. They have parents who cannot keep them.
Right. It should be said that some of these children are left in places where they can actually be found, which has been, obviously helpful to the agencies that are now trying to come in and assist in this issue. We actually adopted through Spence Chapin, which is a fabulous agency out of New York City. So it's really, it's an interesting subject matter. This is your second book, and do you have ideas already on what your third will be? Actually,
I'm finishing writing my fourth novel. My very first never got published. The second one, Puppet Child, was listed the top 10 favorite first novels 2002. Now I hope China Doll will take its place in favorite novels, 2006.
Right.
I'm finishing Jerusalem Maiden, which is set in Jerusalem in the early 1900s.
Oh my gosh, how did you pick that subject?
Stories find me. They just find me. They cry out to me, and they say, tell my story. It takes a nugget, one sentence, one idea, and off I run with 130,000 words.
What's interesting is that you write these as fiction, and yet they are very real stories and events and problems that are taking place in our modern day. Is there a reason that you prefer fiction, or is that just a more natural process for you?
I'm fascinated by the way the human spirit lives or doesn't live, overcomes adversity, governments, events, historical occurrences, pressures. My next novel, Jerusalem Maiden, takes on God, actually. So
you have your hands full on that one.
Yeah. So I'm always amazed by this one character who's strong enough to overcome adversity. So I really write a book about a woman like myself who might be different, has different circumstances. In China Doll, the protagonist had a horrific, traumatic childhood, but that trauma actually is what motivates her to fight so hard for this baby. She must save this baby. But I think of people around me, strong women, career women, and what happens when catastrophic occasions happen, and how they can get over them and survive and win. Right. In that respect, my novels turn out to be also multi-layered, because you have the psychological, emotional levels, you have the current events, you have what happened to that character to bring her to this moment, and of course the historical situations, political. I have a master's in economics, so I'm always looking at the global economy, or politics, or whatever are the bigger forces that shape our lives.
So your choices of subject matters are so broad based on your own background. Where are you originally from?
Israel.
Israel.
Yes, I came here in 1974 after growing up in Israel, a wonderful culture that I still straddle. When I'm there, they consider me Americans, and when I'm here, I'm considered Israeli, but it's because I speak with an accent in both languages by now.
Do you still have family there?
Yes, I do.
And are they safe at the moment?
They are safe. Actually, everybody's safe. I'm going there with my daughter and her new husband in a few weeks.
Oh, that's great to hear.
I need to introduce him to the country, but it's really safe. And as my friends say, well, we're in between wars, so it's not a big deal.
They may be a little bit more used to that, unfortunately, than most Americans. Well, Talia Carner, it's been a pleasure speaking with you. It was really fascinating when you came through the door, because not only did I not know that you were an author, but Talia and I work out together in the Sag Harbor gym, and I never knew that you were an author, and you probably never knew that I was with Plum TV. So exactly, and normally we're there with our hair pulled up and no makeup, so it's like we even recognized each other.
Yes,
well, thank you very much for coming on the
Tracy,
show.
For inviting me on the show, and I hope you'll enjoy reading China Doll.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, it's already out. People can...
Bookhampton carries it. It sells it beautifully. Okay. They display it right on the table. I encourage everybody at least to pick up and read the back cover and
we should mention
wonderful reviews that received from published authors.
That's great. Who is the publisher of this book?
Windsprint Press.
Okay, great. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And next up, we will be speaking with Sloan Shelton, an actress who is starring in a new show at the Bay Street Theater called Eudora Welty. Stay with us.